The 42nd floor of the Spencer Tech Tower pierced through Manhattan's skyline like a glass needle, and from her corner office, Olivia Spencer commanded a view that stretched from the Hudson River to the East River. At 34, she had built an empire that most could only dream of. Her company's latest quarterly report showed revenues exceeding $2 billion, and Forbes had just named her one of the most influential women in technology. But success had come at a price. "Ms. Spencer, your 3 p.m. appointment is here," her assistant Rebecca announced through the intercom, her voice carrying the same crisp efficiency that Olivia demanded from everyone around her. "Send him in," Olivia replied without looking up from her laptop screen, where lines of code and financial projections danced before her eyes. Marcus Wellington entered the office with the confidence of a man accustomed to getting what he wanted. Heir to a real estate fortune and recently divorced from a senator's daughter, he represented exactly the kind of match that New York's elite expected for someone of Olivia's stature. "Olivia," Marcus smiled, his teeth perfectly white against his tanned face. "You look stunning as always." She finally looked up, her green eyes cold and calculating. Marcus was handsome in the way that money could buy, perfectly groomed, expensively dressed, and utterly predictable. Like all the others who had tried to court her over the years. "Marcus, I appreciate you taking the time to meet with me, but I should be direct," Olivia said, closing her laptop with a soft click. "I'm not interested in pursuing anything beyond a professional relationship." His smile faltered slightly. "Olivia, we barely know each other. Perhaps if we could have dinner." "I don't date," she interrupted, standing and walking to the floor-to-ceiling windows. The city sprawled below her, millions of people living their small lives while she orchestrated moves that affected thousands of jobs and billions in market value. "I don't have time for romantic entanglements, and frankly, I don't see the point." Marcus stood as well, his jaw tightening. "You can't build a life on spreadsheets and board meetings, Olivia. Everyone needs companionship." "Do they?" She turned to face him, her expression unchanged. "I have everything I need. My company, my success, my independence. What could a relationship possibly add to that equation?" After Marcus left, clearly frustrated and slightly humiliated, Olivia returned to her desk. This was the 7th man in 3 months that her social circle had pushed toward her. Senators' sons, tech entrepreneurs, investment bankers, all cut from the same cloth, all expecting her to soften her edges and play the role of the accomplished woman who still needed a man to complete her. The thought disgusted her. As evening approached, the office gradually emptied. Olivia remained, as she always did, working until the cleaning crew arrived. It was past 10 when she finally gathered her things and headed for the elevator. Her driver waited outside in the black Mercedes, but tonight, something made her pause. "Take the evening off, James," she told him through the window. "I think I'll walk." The October air bit at her cheeks as she stepped onto the sidewalk. New York in autumn had always been her favorite. The way the city seemed to exhale after the oppressive heat of summer, the golden light that filtered through the changing leaves in Central Park, the energy that crackled through the streets as people hurried past in their coats and scarves. She walked south through Midtown, her heels clicking against the pavement in a steady rhythm. The streets were still busy despite the hour. This was the city that never slept, after all. Yellow cabs honked their way through traffic. Street vendors called out to late-night commuters, and the neon signs of Times Square painted everything in electric blues and reds. But as she continued walking, the crowds thinned and the noise softened. She found herself in Union Square, where the farmers' market would set up in just a few hours, and where protesters often gathered to voice their causes. At this hour, though, the square was mostly empty, except for a few late-night stragglers and the homeless who had claimed benches for the night. It was then that she saw her. Huddled on a bench near the subway entrance was a young woman, maybe 25, wrapped in a threadbare blanket that had seen better days. Her dark hair fell in waves around her face, and even in sleep, there was something ethereal about her features. She clutched a worn backpack to her chest like a lifeline, and her clothes, though clean, were clearly second-hand. Olivia stopped walking. In her world of boardrooms and penthouses, homelessness was a statistic, a social issue discussed in charity galas where wealthy donors wrote checks to ease their consciences. But seeing this girl, This young woman who couldn't be much younger than herself, sleeping rough in the heart of Manhattan, struck something deep in Olivia's chest. The temperature was dropping. The weather report had predicted frost by morning. Without fully understanding why, Olivia approached the bench. The girl stirred slightly, but didn't wake. Up close, Olivia could see that she was shivering despite the blanket, her lips tinged with blue from the cold. "Excuse me," Olivia said softly. The girl's eyes snapped open, brown eyes, warm despite the circumstances, but alert with the wariness of someone who had learned to be cautious. She sat up quickly, clutching her backpack tighter. "I'm sorry," the girl said, her voice hoarse from sleep and cold. "I wasn't bothering anyone. I'll move if—" "No," Olivia interrupted, surprised by the gentleness in her own voice. "You don't need to move. It's getting very cold. Do you have somewhere warm to go?" The girl studied Olivia's face, taking in the expensive coat, the designer handbag, the obvious markers of wealth. Her expression became guarded. "I'm fine," she said, though her chattering teeth betrayed her words. "What's your name?" Olivia asked, sitting down on the bench despite herself. The metal was freezing through her coat. The girl hesitated. Emily Carter. I'm Olivia." She didn't give her last name. Something told her that would only make Emily more suspicious. "How long have you been out here?" Emily pulled the blanket tighter around herself. "A few weeks. Look, I appreciate the concern, but I don't need charity. I'm just between places right now." There was pride in her voice, dignity despite her circumstances. Olivia recognized it because she had built her own life on that same fierce independence. "I wasn't offering charity," Olivia said. "I was offering help. There's a difference." Emily's laugh was bitter. "Is there?" "In my experience, help always comes with strings attached." They sat in silence for a moment, watching the late-night traffic flow around the square. A police car cruised by slowly, and Emily tensed until it passed. "What happened?" Olivia asked quietly. Emily was quiet for so long that Olivia thought she wouldn't answer. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, she began to speak. "I was working at a small marketing firm in Brooklyn. Nothing fancy, but I loved it. I was good at it too. Creative campaigns, social media strategy. I had this tiny studio apartment in Williamsburg. Nothing special, but it was mine." She paused, her breath visible in the cold air. "The company got bought out by a bigger firm. They kept some people, let others go. I wasn't one of the lucky ones. Couldn't you find another job? I tried, but the market's tough, and without a big-name company on my resume." Emily shrugged. "I burned through my savings pretty quickly. Rent in New York doesn't wait for you to get back on your feet. I've been staying in shelters when I can get a bed, but they're always full. Some nights, like tonight, it's just easier to find a quiet spot and wait for morning." Olivia felt something crack inside her chest. Here was someone with talent and ambition, brought low by circumstances that could happen to anyone. How many times had she walked past people like Emily without a second thought? "There's a hotel across the street," Olivia said suddenly. "The W Union Square. Let me get you a room for the night." Emily's eyes widened. "I can't accept that. I don't even know you. You know my name is Olivia, and I know yours is Emily. That's more than most people know about each other when they meet." Olivia stood up, making a decision that surprised even her. "It's one night, Emily. No strings attached. Just a warm bed and a hot shower." Emily stared at her for a long moment, and Olivia could see the internal battle playing out across her features. Pride warring with exhaustion, suspicion fighting with hope. "Why?" Emily asked finally. It was a fair question, and one Olivia wasn't sure she could answer. Why was she standing in Union Square at nearly midnight, offering to pay for a hotel room for a stranger? Why did the sight of this girl sleeping rough affect her more than any board meeting or business crisis ever had? "Because," Olivia said, surprising herself with the honesty, "I think we all need help sometimes, and maybe tonight I'm in a position to give it." Emily studied her face in the glow of the streetlights, searching for deception or ulterior motives. Whatever she saw there must have satisfied her, because she slowly nodded. "Okay," she said quietly. One night. The lobby of the W Union Square was a study in modern luxury. All sleek lines, ambient lighting, and the kind of understated elegance that whispered rather than shouted its expense. Emily followed Olivia through the revolving doors, her worn backpack and threadbare blanket a stark contrast to the polished marble and designer furniture. "Good evening, Ms. Spencer," the desk clerk said, with a practiced smile of someone trained to recognize VIP guests. "How may we assist you tonight?" Emily's head snapped toward Olivia. "Spencer." As in Spencer Tech, the company whose logo was plastered on billboards throughout the city, whose CEO was regularly featured on the covers of business magazines. "I need a room for my friend," Olivia said smoothly, either not noticing Emily's shocked expression or choosing to ignore it. "Something comfortable, with a view if possible." "Of course, Ms. Spencer. We have a deluxe king room available on the 15th floor, overlooking the square." As the clerk processed the reservation, Emily grabbed Olivia's arm. "You're Olivia Spencer," she whispered urgently. "The Olivia Spencer." "Yes," Olivia replied simply. "Why didn't you tell me? Would it have mattered?" Emily opened her mouth to respond, then closed it again. Would it have mattered? She thought about the woman who had sat beside her on the bench, who had spoken to her with genuine concern rather than pity, who had offered help without condescension. That woman had been kind and real. The fact that she also happened to be one of the most powerful people in New York was almost irrelevant. Almost. "Here's your key card," the clerk said, handing Emily a small envelope. "Room 1547. The elevators are just past the bar." "Is there anything else you need tonight? Could you send up some room service?" Olivia asked. "Something warm, soup, maybe, and some sandwiches." "Certainly, Mrs. Spencer." They rode the elevator in silence, Emily clutching the key card like it might disappear if she loosened her grip. The hallway was carpeted in deep burgundy, with artwork that probably cost more than Emily had made in a year at her old job. Room 1547 was beautiful, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Union Square, a king-sized bed with crisp white linens, a marble bathroom with a rainfall shower. Emily stood in the doorway, overwhelmed. "I can't accept this," she said for the second time that night. "You already did," Olivia replied gently. "The room is paid for. You might as well use it." Emily walked to the window, looking down at the bench where she had been sleeping just 20 minutes earlier. It seemed like a lifetime ago. "Why?" she asked again, turning to face Olivia. "And don't give me some generic answer about helping people. You could write a check to a homeless shelter if that's what this was about." "Why me? Why tonight?" Olivia was quiet for a long moment, studying Emily's face in the soft light from the bedside lamps. There was intelligence there, and strength, and something else. A vulnerability that Emily tried to hide but couldn't quite manage. "I don't know," Olivia admitted. "I've walked past that square hundreds of times. I've seen homeless people before, but tonight, seeing you there..." She trailed off, struggling to find words for something she didn't fully understand herself. "You looked like someone who didn't belong there, like you were just temporarily displaced, not permanently lost." "Maybe I am permanently lost," Emily said quietly. "I don't think so." Olivia moved closer to the window, standing beside Emily. "You said you were good at your job. You said you loved it. That doesn't just disappear because of one setback." A knock at the door interrupted them. Room service arrived with a tray of tomato soup, grilled cheese sandwiches, and hot chocolate. Comfort food that seemed absurdly simple in such luxurious surroundings. "I should go," Olivia said as the server left. "Let you get some rest." "Wait." Emily's voice stopped her at the door. Would you like to stay for a few minutes? Have some soup? It seems like too much for just me." Olivia hesitated. She had early meetings tomorrow, reports to review, a conference call with investors in Tokyo. But something about the way Emily asked, not desperate or needy, just genuinely wanting company, made her nod. They sat on the couch by the window, sharing the simple meal and talking. Emily told Olivia about growing up in a small town in Ohio, about her dreams of making it in New York, about the campaigns she had created for local businesses that had actually made a difference in their success. Olivia found herself talking too, really talking, in a way she hadn't done in years. She told Emily about the early days of Spencer Tech, when she had worked 18-hour days in a cramped office in Queens, surviving on coffee and determination. She talked about the loneliness of success, about how the higher she climbed, the smaller her world became. "Don't you have friends?" Emily asked. "Family?" "I have colleagues," Olivia said. "People who want things from me. My parents died in a car accident when I was in college. No siblings. As for friends," she shrugged, "it's hard to know who likes you for yourself and who likes you for what you can do for them. That must be lonely." "I thought I preferred it that way," Olivia said, surprised by her own honesty. "Simpler, cleaner, no complications." They talked until nearly 2 a.m, the conversation flowing with an ease that surprised them both. When Olivia finally stood to leave, she felt reluctant to break the spell of the evening. "Thank you," Emily said, walking her to the door. "Not just for the room, but for this. For treating me like a person instead of a problem to be solved." "Thank you for letting me stay," Olivia replied. "I can't remember the last time I had a conversation that wasn't about quarterly projections or market share." They stood at the door for a moment, neither quite ready to say goodbye. "What happens tomorrow?" Emily asked. "I don't know," Olivia admitted. "But maybe we could find out together." Olivia barely slept that night. She lay in her penthouse apartment, staring at the ceiling and replaying every moment of her conversation with Emily. The way Emily's eyes lit up when she talked about her work, the quiet dignity with which she carried herself despite her circumstances, the easy laugh that seemed to come from somewhere deep and genuine. By 6 a.m., Olivia was dressed and in her home office. But for the first time in years, she couldn't concentrate on work. Her mind kept drifting to room 1547 at the W Union Square, wondering if Emily was sleeping peacefully in the comfortable bed, if she was warm enough, if she would still be there when checkout time came. At 8:30, Olivia made a decision that would have shocked anyone who knew her. She called Rebecca and canceled her morning meetings. "All of them, Ms. Spencer?" Rebecca asked, unable to hide her surprise. In 5 years as Olivia's assistant, she had never known her boss to cancel meetings without a crisis. "All of them. Reschedule for this afternoon if possible. I have something I need to take care of." Olivia arrived at the hotel just as Emily was checking out. She stood at the front desk in the same clothes from the night before, but she looked different somehow, refreshed, more confident. The hot shower and good night's sleep had restored some of the vitality that homelessness had worn away. "Olivia," Emily said, turning as she approached. "I was just leaving. Thank you again for— Have you had breakfast?" Olivia interrupted. Emily shook her head. "I was going to grab something from a street vendor. There's a cafe around the corner, good coffee, excellent pastries. Would you like to join me?" Emily studied her face, clearly trying to understand what was happening. "Don't you have to work? I mean, you're Olivia Spencer. You probably have a dozen meetings this morning. I canceled them." "You canceled meetings for me?" "I canceled meetings for breakfast," Olivia corrected, though they both knew it was the same thing. The cafe was a small, intimate place with exposed brick walls and the kind of atmosphere that encouraged lingering over coffee. They found a table by the window, and Olivia watched Emily's face as she took her first sip of real coffee in weeks. "God, I missed this," Emily said, closing her eyes in appreciation. "You don't realize how much you take for granted until it's gone." "What will you do today?" Olivia asked. "Look for work. There's a temp agency in Midtown that sometimes has day jobs, data entry, filing, that kind of thing. It's not much, but it's something." Olivia felt a familiar stirring. The same instinct that had built her company, the ability to see potential where others saw problems. "What if I told you I might have something better?" Emily's fork paused halfway to her mouth. "What do you mean?" Spencer Tech is always looking for talented marketing people, especially people with fresh perspectives, creative approaches. "Olivia, I can't." "Why not?" "Because it would be charity, because you'd be hiring me out of pity, not because I'm qualified." Olivia leaned forward, her green eyes intense. "Emily, I didn't build a $2 billion company by making decisions based on pity. If I'm offering you a job, it's because I think you can do it. You don't even know my work, then show me." Emily stared at her for a long moment, then reached into her backpack and pulled out a battered laptop. "This is all I have left," she said, opening it carefully. "Most of my portfolio was on my work computer. but I managed to save some things. For the next hour, Emily walked Olivia through campaigns she had created for small businesses. A local restaurant that had tripled its customer base after Emily redesigned their social media strategy. A boutique clothing store that had expanded to 3 locations after Emily created a viral marketing campaign. A nonprofit that had exceeded its fundraising goals by 200% after Emily revamped their donor outreach. The work was impressive, creative, strategic, and most importantly, effective. Olivia found herself genuinely excited by Emily's ideas, by the fresh perspective she brought to problems that Olivia's current team approached with predictable solutions. "This is good work," Olivia said finally. "Really good. Good enough for Spencer Tech. Good enough for a trial period, 3 months, full salary and benefits. If it works out, we'll make it permanent." Emily's eyes filled with tears, and she quickly wiped them away. "I don't know what to say. Say yes." "Yes," Emily whispered. "Yes, absolutely yes." They spent the rest of the morning working out details. Olivia arranged for Emily to stay at the hotel for another week while she found an apartment, advanced her enough money for a security deposit and first month's rent, and scheduled her to start work on Monday. "There's just one thing," Olivia said, as they prepared to leave the cafe. "This stays between us. As far as anyone at the company knows, you're a new hire who came through normal channels. No one needs to know how we met." Emily nodded, understanding immediately. "Of course. I wouldn't want anyone to think I got the job for any reason other than my qualifications." But as they walked back toward the hotel, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Olivia's request than professional discretion. There was something in the way Olivia had said it, a careful distance that hadn't been there during their conversation the night before. "Olivia," Emily said, stopping on the sidewalk, "are you having second thoughts about this?" "No," Olivia replied quickly. "Not about the job. You're qualified, and we need someone with your skills, but—" Olivia was quiet for a moment, watching the flow of pedestrians around them. "But I think we should keep things professional from now on. Last night was unusual for me. I don't typically get personally involved with employees." Emily felt something sink in her chest, though she couldn't quite name what it was. "Of course. You're right. Professional boundaries are important." "Good," Olivia said, but her voice lacked conviction. "I'll have Rebecca send you all the details about your start date and orientation." They shook hands formally on the sidewalk, and Olivia walked away without looking back. Emily watched her go, feeling like something precious had just slipped through her fingers, though she couldn't understand why. Neither of them realized that their attempt to maintain professional distance would prove to be impossible, or that the connection they had felt in that hotel room would only grow stronger despite their best efforts to contain it. Emily's first week at Spencer Tech was a whirlwind of orientation sessions, team meetings, and getting acquainted with the company's massive scope of operations. The Spencer Tech building was a monument to innovation. 42 floors of cutting-edge technology, brilliant minds, and the kind of resources that Emily had only dreamed of working with. Her new colleagues were welcoming, if somewhat curious about the new hire who had seemingly appeared out of nowhere. Emily had been assigned to the digital marketing team under the supervision of David Chen, a sharp-minded director who had been with the company for 6 years. "Olivia Spencer herself recommended you," David told Emily on her first day, leading her through the open-plan office space. "That doesn't happen often. She usually leaves hiring decisions to department heads." Emily kept her expression neutral. "I'm grateful for the opportunity. Well, let's see what you can do. We're launching a new product line next quarter, AI-powered home automation systems. The target demographic is tech-savvy millennials and Gen Z consumers. Think you can help us reach them?" Emily's eyes lit up. This was exactly the kind of challenge she thrived on. "I'd love to try." Over the next few days, Emily threw herself into the project with the enthusiasm of someone who had been given a second chance at life. She researched market trends, analyzed competitor strategies, and began developing a comprehensive campaign that would position Spencer Tech's new products as not just innovative, but essential for the modern lifestyle. She barely saw Olivia during those first days. Occasionally, she would catch a glimpse of her through the glass walls of the executive conference room, leading meetings with the intensity and focus that had made her legendary in the business world. Once, their eyes met across the office floor, and Emily felt a jolt of recognition, a reminder of the connection they had shared in that hotel room. But Olivia looked away quickly, and Emily forced herself to do the same. It was Friday afternoon when everything changed. Emily was working late, refining her presentation for the Monday morning team meeting, when she heard the familiar click of heels on the marble floor. She looked up to see Olivia approaching her desk, and her heart did something complicated in her chest. "Working late," Olivia observed, stopping beside Emily's workstation. "I wanted to make sure my presentation was ready," Emily replied, trying to keep her voice professional. "David said you might be sitting in on Monday's meeting." "I might be." Olivia glanced at Emily's computer screen, where a sleek presentation was taking shape. "How are you settling in? Everyone's been very welcoming. The work is challenging, but in a good way." They stood in awkward silence for a moment, the easy conversation of their first meeting replaced by careful formality. Around them, the office was nearly empty, just a few dedicated employees burning the midnight oil. "Emily," Olivia said finally, her voice softer than it had been all week, "are you happy here?" The question caught Emily off guard. "Yes, of course. Why would you ask that?" "You seem different, more reserved than when we first met." Emily looked up at her, seeing something vulnerable in Olivia's expression that reminded her of the woman who had sat beside her on that bench in Union Square. "You asked me to keep things professional," Emily said quietly. "I'm trying to respect that." "I did, didn't I?" Olivia's smile was rueful. "Sometimes I think I'm too good at building walls." "Why did you really come down here tonight?" Emily asked. Olivia was quiet for a long moment, and Emily could see her internal struggle, the battle between the CEO who maintained careful control over every aspect of her life and the woman who had impulsively offered help to a stranger. "Because I miss talking to you," Olivia admitted finally. "These past few days, I've found myself thinking about our conversation at the hotel. When was the last time you had a real conversation with someone? Not about work, not about business, just talking." Emily saved her work and closed her laptop. "Want to get out of here? Where would we go?" "I know a place." 20 minutes later, they were walking through Central Park as the sun set behind the Manhattan skyline. Emily had suggested the park because it was neutral territory, not Olivia's world of corporate power, not Emily's world of uncertainty, just a place where they could be two people talking. "I used to come here when I first moved to New York," Emily said, as they walked along the path beside the reservoir. "When the city felt overwhelming, when I missed home, when I needed to remember why I came here in the first place." "Why did you come here?" Olivia asked. "Because I wanted to matter," Emily said simply. "I wanted to create things that would make a difference, even if it was just helping a small business find its voice or connecting people with something they needed." New York felt like the place where that was possible. And now? Emily was quiet for a moment, watching the joggers and dog walkers enjoying the evening. "Now I'm not sure. The past few weeks have made me question a lot of things. What success really means, what security looks like, how quickly everything you think you've built can disappear." They found a bench overlooking the water, and Olivia sat down beside Emily, careful to maintain a respectable distance. "I've been thinking about that too," Olivia said. "Success, I've spent so many years focused on building the company, on proving myself, on winning. But winning what, exactly?" "You've built something incredible," Emily said. "Spencer Tech has changed how people interact with technology. You've created thousands of jobs, revolutionized entire industries. Have I, though? Or have I just created a very expensive monument to my own ambition?" Emily turned to look at her, surprised by the vulnerability in Olivia's voice. "What do you mean?" What's the point of building an empire if you're going to rule it alone?" Olivia's laugh was bitter. "I have everything I thought I wanted, and I'm lonelier than I've ever been in my life." "You don't have to be," Emily said softly. "Don't I? Look at my life, Emily. Look at the choices I've made. I've systematically eliminated every possibility of genuine human connection in favor of professional achievement. I don't know how to be anything other than what I am." "Maybe you don't have to be anything other than what you are," Emily said. "Maybe you just have to let people see who that really is." They sat in comfortable silence as darkness fell around them, the city lights beginning to twinkle in the distance. Emily found herself acutely aware of Olivia beside her, The subtle scent of her perfume, the way she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear when she was thinking, the careful way she held herself even in this moment of relative vulnerability. "Emily," Olivia said finally, "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me, okay? That night we met, when I saw you on that bench, what did you think of me?" Emily considered the question carefully. "I thought you were someone who was used to being in control, but who was genuinely concerned about a stranger. I thought you were lonely, even though you probably wouldn't admit it. And I thought you were beautiful." The last words slipped out before Emily could stop them, and she felt heat rise in her cheeks. But Olivia didn't seem shocked or uncomfortable. Instead, she turned to face Emily fully for the first time since they had sat down. "I thought you were beautiful, too," Olivia said quietly. "And brave, and real in a way that I'd forgotten people could be, and that terrified me. Why? Because I've spent so many years convincing myself that I don't need anyone, that emotional attachments are weaknesses I can't afford. And then I met you, and suddenly all of that certainty felt like a lie I'd been telling myself." They were sitting closer now, though neither could say exactly when that had happened. Emily could see the flecks of gold in Olivia's green eyes, could count the faint freckles across her nose that makeup usually concealed. "Olivia," Emily said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I know," Olivia replied. "I know this is complicated. I know there are a dozen reasons why this is a bad idea. But I can't stop thinking about you. I can't stop wondering what might happen if I stop being so afraid of letting someone in." The space between them seemed to shrink, and Emily felt her heart racing. This was dangerous territory, not just because Olivia was her boss, but because Emily could feel herself falling for someone whose world was so different from her own that they might as well be from different planets. "What are you saying?" Emily asked. "I'm saying that maybe professional boundaries aren't the most important thing here. Maybe some things are worth the risk." Before Emily could respond, Olivia's phone buzzed with an urgent message. She glanced at it and sighed. "Crisis in Tokyo," she said, the moment broken. "I have to take a call." They walked back through the park in silence, both lost in their own thoughts. At the edge of Central Park, where their paths would diverge, Olivia to her penthouse, Emily to her small hotel room, they stopped. "Emily," Olivia said, "would you like to have dinner tomorrow night? Somewhere quiet, away from the office?" Emily's heart leaped, but she forced herself to think clearly. "Are you sure that's wise?" "Probably not," Olivia admitted. "But I'm tired of making every decision based on what's wise. Sometimes you have to make decisions based on what feels right." Emily looked into Olivia's eyes and saw hope there, and fear, and something that looked like the beginning of love. "Yes," she said. "I'd like that very much." Saturday evening found Emily standing in front of her hotel room mirror, trying on the third outfit in an hour. She had managed to find a simple black dress at a nearby boutique. Nothing too fancy, but elegant enough for dinner with Olivia Spencer. The irony wasn't lost on her that she was using money Olivia had given her to buy clothes for a date with Olivia. Was it a date? Neither of them had used that word, but the careful way Olivia had asked, the nervous energy Emily felt in her stomach, the way they had almost kissed in Central Park. It felt like more than a business dinner. Her phone buzzed with a text from Olivia. "Car will pick you up at 7. Looking forward to tonight." Emily smiled despite her nerves. In the week since she had started working at Spencer Tech, she had seen Olivia in full CEO mode, commanding boardrooms, making decisions that affected thousands of people, wielding power with the kind of natural authority that made grown men defer to her judgment. But tonight, in that simple text message, Emily caught a glimpse of the woman she had met on the bench in Union Square. The restaurant Olivia had chosen was a small Italian place in the village, the kind of intimate spot that felt a world away from the corporate dining rooms where Olivia usually conducted business. When Emily arrived, Olivia was already seated at a corner table, and she looked different. Softer somehow, in a cream-colored sweater and dark jeans instead of her usual power suits. "You look beautiful," Olivia said, as Emily sat down, and there was something in her voice that made Emily's pulse quicken. "So do you," Emily replied, and meant it. Without the armor of her business attire, Olivia looked younger, more approachable. more human. They ordered wine and talked about everything except work. Emily's childhood in Ohio, Olivia's college years at MIT, their favorite books and movies, and the places they dreamed of traveling. The conversation flowed as easily as it had that first night in the hotel, and Emily found herself relaxing into the evening. "Can I ask you something?" Emily said, as they shared a dessert of tiramisu. "Anything. Why haven't you ever been in a serious relationship? I mean, you're successful, intelligent, beautiful. Surely there have been opportunities." Olivia was quiet for a moment, swirling the wine in her glass. "There have been opportunities," she said finally. "But I've never met anyone who made me want to risk what I've built." "Risk it how?" "Love makes you vulnerable," Olivia said. "It gives someone else the power to hurt you, to distract you, to become more important than your goals. I've seen too many brilliant people derailed by relationships that didn't work out." "And now?" Olivia looked up, meeting Emily's eyes across the small table. "Now I'm beginning to think that maybe being invulnerable isn't the same thing as being strong." The weight of that admission hung between them, and Emily felt something shift in her chest. This wasn't just attraction or infatuation. This was Olivia Spencer, one of the most powerful women in America, admitting that she was willing to be vulnerable for the first time in her adult life. "Olivia," Emily said softly, "what are we doing here?" "I don't know," Olivia admitted. "I've never been in uncharted territory like this before. In business, I always have a plan, a strategy, a clear path to the desired outcome. But this," she gestured between them, "this feels like jumping off a cliff and hoping I can figure out how to fly on the way down." "Maybe that's not such a bad thing," Emily said. "Maybe some things are worth the leap." They walked through the village after dinner, the October air crisp and clear. The streets were quieter here than in Midtown, lined with brownstones and small shops that gave the neighborhood a more intimate feel. They found themselves walking closer together, their hands occasionally brushing as they moved. "Emily," Olivia said, as they paused at a corner, waiting for the light to change, "I need you to know that if we do this, if we explore whatever this is between us, it's going to be complicated. I know. I mean really complicated. The media attention, the speculation about whether you got your job because of our relationship, the pressure from the board if they find out their CEO is dating an employee. Are we dating?" Emily asked, a small smile playing at her lips. Olivia's cheeks flushed slightly. "I'd like to be, if you're willing to deal with all the complications that come with it." Emily stopped walking and turned to face Olivia fully. They were standing under a streetlight, and the warm glow made Olivia's hair look like spun gold. "Olivia, 3 weeks ago I was sleeping on a bench in Union Square. I had no job, no home, no prospects. You changed all of that. You gave me a chance when no one else would, and you did it because you saw something in me that I was starting to think didn't exist anymore." "Emily." "Let me finish," Emily said gently. "I'm not naive. I know this won't be easy. I know there will be people who assume I'm using you, or that you're using me. I know that dating your boss is complicated under the best of circumstances, and these aren't exactly the best of circumstances. Then why?" "Because," Emily said, stepping closer, "in all of that complexity, there's something simple. I care about you. Not Olivia Spencer, the CEO, not the woman on the Forbes list, not the person who can change my life with a phone call. I care about the woman who sat with me on a park bench and talked about loneliness, who admitted she doesn't know how to let people in, who's brave enough to risk everything she's built for the possibility of something real." Olivia's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "I care about you too," she whispered. "More than I thought I was capable of caring about anyone." The space between them disappeared, and when Olivia kissed her, Emily felt like she was falling and flying at the same time. It was soft and tentative at first, then deeper as Emily responded, her hands finding their way to Olivia's face, her fingers threading through that golden hair. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. "So," Emily said, her voice slightly unsteady. "I guess we're really doing this. I guess we are," Olivia replied. And for the first time since Emily had known her, Olivia Spencer looked genuinely happy. They spent the rest of the evening walking through the village, talking and laughing, and stealing kisses in the shadows between streetlights. It felt like a beginning, like the first page of a story neither of them could have imagined writing. But as Emily lay in her hotel bed that night, replaying every moment of the evening, she couldn't shake the feeling that the real challenges were just beginning. Falling in love with Olivia Spencer was the easy part. Staying in love with her, building something real and lasting despite all the obstacles in their path, that would require more courage than either of them had ever needed before. 3 months later, Emily had settled into a rhythm that felt almost normal. She had found a small but charming apartment in Brooklyn. Her work at Spencer Tech was thriving, and her relationship with Olivia had deepened into something that felt both exhilarating and terrifyingly real. They had been careful, perhaps too careful. Their relationship remained a secret from everyone at the office, conducted in stolen moments and private dinners, weekend getaways to Olivia's house in the Hamptons, and quiet evenings in Emily's apartment where Olivia could shed the weight of her public persona and just be herself. Emily had never been happier, but she was beginning to understand the cost of loving someone who lived in the public eye. Every decision had to be calculated, every public appearance choreographed. They couldn't hold hands on the street, couldn't be seen together at restaurants where they might be recognized, couldn't even arrive at work at the same time for fear of speculation. It was a Tuesday morning in January when everything changed. Emily was in the office early, preparing for a presentation to the executive team about the success of the AI home automation campaign. The product launch had exceeded all projections, and Emily's marketing strategy had been a significant factor in its success. She was proud of the work, proud of what she had accomplished on her own merit. She was reviewing her slides when David Chen appeared at her desk, his expression grim. "Emily, we need to talk," he said. "Conference room 3. Now." Emily's stomach dropped. David's tone was all business, and not the good kind of business. She followed him to the small conference room, where she found 2 other people waiting, Janet Morrison from Human Resources and Michael Torres from Legal. "Please, sit down," Janet said, her voice carefully neutral. Emily sat, her mind racing through possibilities. Had she made a mistake on the campaign? Violated some company policy she wasn't aware of? The serious expressions around the table suggested something much worse than a minor infraction. "Emily," David began, "we've received some information that we need to discuss with you. Information about your relationship with Ms. Spencer." Emily's blood turned to ice. "I'm sorry?" "We know you're involved with Olivia Spencer," Michael said bluntly. "The question is whether you're going to be honest about it, or whether we're going to have to present you with the evidence we've already gathered." Emily's mind went blank. How could they know? She and Olivia had been so careful, so discreet. They had never been photographed together, never been seen in public in any context that couldn't be explained as professional. "I don't know what you're talking about," Emily said, but her voice lacked conviction. Janet slid a manila folder across the table. "These are photographs taken by a private investigator hired by Marcus Wellington. Apparently, Mr. Wellington was quite upset about being rejected by Mrs. Spencer, and he wanted to know why." Emily opened the folder with trembling hands. Inside were a dozen photographs, her and Olivia kissing outside the restaurant in the village, walking hand in hand through Central Park, embracing on the steps of Olivia's townhouse. The images were clear, unmistakable, and devastating. "Mr. Wellington approached the board of directors yesterday," Michael continued. "He's threatening to go public with these photos unless certain demands are met." "What kind of demands?" Emily asked, though she was afraid she already knew. "He wants Ms. Spencer to step down as CEO," David said. "He claims that her judgment has been compromised by her relationship with you, that she's created a hostile work environment by showing favoritism to someone she's sleeping with." Emily felt sick. This was exactly what she had feared, exactly why she had hesitated to get involved with Olivia in the first place. Now her worst nightmare was coming true, and it wasn't just her career at stake. It was Olivia's entire life's work. "What happens now?" Emily asked. "That depends on you," Janet said. "The board is meeting this afternoon to discuss the situation. If you resign voluntarily and agree to sign a non-disclosure agreement, they might be willing to handle this quietly. If you fight it, if I fight it, they'll destroy both of us," Emily finished. The board has a fiduciary responsibility to the shareholders, Michael said. They can't allow personal relationships to compromise the company's leadership. Emily closed the folder, her hands shaking. I need to talk to Olivia. Ms. Spencer is in meetings all morning, David said. The board meeting is at 2:00. We need your decision by then. Emily left the conference room feeling like she was walking through a nightmare. She went to the bathroom and splashed cold water on her face, trying to think clearly. Everything she had worked for, everything she had built, was about to crumble. But worse than that, she was about to destroy the woman she loved. She thought about Olivia's face when she talked about Spencer Tech, the pride and passion that lit up her eyes when she discussed the company's innovations. Olivia had built this empire from nothing, had sacrificed everything for it. Emily couldn't be the reason it was taken away from her. At noon, Emily made her decision. She typed out her resignation letter, citing personal reasons for her departure. She packed her few belongings from her desk, said goodbye to the colleagues who had become friends, and walked out of Spencer Tech for the last time. She was waiting in Olivia's penthouse when Olivia came home that evening, having used the key Olivia had given her the month before. Olivia found her sitting on the couch, still in her work clothes, staring out at the city lights. Emily? Olivia said, immediately sensing something was wrong. What are you doing here? I thought we were meeting for dinner. Emily turned to face her, and Olivia saw the tears in her eyes, the resignation letter on the coffee table. They know, Emily said simply. Olivia's face went white. What do you mean they know? Emily told her everything. Marcus Wellington's investigation, the photographs, the ultimatum from the board. She watched Olivia's expression change from shock to anger to something that looked like grief. So you quit, Olivia said when Emily finished. You just gave up. I protected you, Emily corrected. I protected what you've spent your entire life building. Without talking to me first, without giving me a choice in the matter. Emily stood up, moving to the window. What choice was there, Olivia? Let them destroy your company? Let them force you out of the CEO position because of me? Maybe that would have been my choice to make, Olivia said, her voice rising. Maybe I would have chosen you over the company. You don't mean that, don't I? Olivia moved to stand beside her. Emily, Spencer Tech is just a company. It's successful, it's profitable, it's innovative. But at the end of the day, it's just a business. You're the first person in my entire adult life who's made me feel like there might be something more important than quarterly earnings and market share. Emily felt tears streaming down her face. I can't be the reason you lose everything you've worked for. And I can't let you sacrifice yourself to save something that doesn't matter as much as you do. They stood in silence for a long moment, both understanding that they had reached a crossroads that would define the rest of their lives. What do we do now? Emily asked. Olivia took her hands, holding them tightly. We fight, she said. We go to the board meeting tomorrow and we tell them the truth. That yes, we're in a relationship, but that it hasn't compromised my judgment or your performance. That Marcus Wellington is a vindictive man who's trying to use our private lives to manipulate corporate governance. And if they don't listen, then we'll face whatever comes next together, Olivia said. But I'm not going to let fear make this decision for us. I've spent too many years being afraid of taking risks, of letting people in, of choosing love over safety. I'm not going to make that mistake again. Emily looked into Olivia's eyes and saw determination there, and love, and a courage that took her breath away. Are you sure? Emily asked. I've never been more sure of anything in my life, Olivia replied. The question is, are you willing to fight for us? Emily thought about everything that had brought them to this moment, the night they met in Union Square, the conversations that had revealed their hearts to each other, the love that had grown between them despite all the obstacles. She thought about the woman who had seen her potential when she was at her lowest point, who had given her not just a job, but a chance to rebuild her life. Yes, Emily said. I'm willing to fight. The next morning, they walked into the Spencer Tech boardroom together, hand in hand, ready to face whatever consequences their love might bring. The board members looked shocked to see Emily there, having expected her resignation to end the matter quietly. Ladies and gentlemen, Olivia said, taking her seat at the head of the table with Emily beside her. I believe we have some things to discuss. Outside the windows of the 42nd floor, New York City spread out before them. Millions of people living their lives, taking risks, making choices between safety and love. And in that boardroom, two women who had found each other against all odds, prepared to fight for the right to love each other openly, whatever the cost might be. The city that never slept was about to witness a love story that would challenge everything its most powerful circles believed about business, relationships, and the courage it takes to choose love over fear. As Olivia began to speak, Emily squeezed her hand and knew that whatever happened next, they would face it together. And sometimes, that's all the victory love needs.